You know, I have to admit, there honestly was a missed opportunity with this Gundam Witch from Mercury episode, as had they aired episode 18 last Sunday alongside Demon Slayer, we would have had peak Mother's Day anime edition, which would have been pure pain. But I love the fact that, at face value, honestly, it's kind of like this double whammy of how to feel about Prospera in this moment. In the span of 2 short episodes, Suletta has literally lost everyone. Mio abandoned her last week, and at the end of this episode, we get abandoned not only by Eri, aka the Aerial, but also Prospera. And the fact that both moments more or less boil down to trying to protect her, but leave her abandoned in space crying for her life. I mean, there's only so much you can bottle up inside, and I don't know where her mindset goes from here, but the fact that it's such a brilliant double whammy of where Prospera's motherly instincts lie. Not to say that she didn't ultimately agree to keep someone like Suletta safe, but at the end of the day, if we remember, this is Eri convincing Prospera to let her go because Eri wants Suletta safe, and Prospera dotting on her favorite child, Eri, is why that whole scene occurred as she pushes our girl into space saying, "Get lost. I don't need you anymore." It's pure pain, but that's what we come for this Witch of Mercury extravaganza. Now, full live reaction to this episode is available on my Patreon if you do want to see my full uncut thoughts to this insane episode. I honestly thought what they were doing, because up until the last few minutes, this was a really good setup episode, reminding us of all the key players, showing us all the little plot threads, and seriously, the more I watch of the Witch from Mercury world, the more I see such possibilities with another season time skip, 2 cores, seeing all these different characters at different stages of their life, because this show and world is clearly so much bigger than just Mio and Suletta, but that is obviously the star attraction of these 2 cores here. And oh my god, just Prospera, the manipulation of getting Mio to use a Gundam for something other than medical by showing the protesters and on Earth everyone getting screwed over, just master manipulator. But the star attraction was that scene, getting back in the Aerial and having Eri just remind her and just showcase, we don't need you anymore. And this isn't ripping off a Band-Aid. This is pushing someone down a flight of stairs. Even if the intentions are good, it is horribly directed in terms of being compassionate. And to watch a girl who literally had that phrase that would get her to agree with anything, more and more, even in this episode, she's saying that phrase doesn't work for her right now, and to really shatter her, I mean, you enter this episode probably thinking she's going to be depressed if not dark, and she's cheerful as can be. There's only so much she can hide away from, and this episode I think has completely shattered her, and honestly, I don't know where her character goes. I really think we're about to experience a different version of her, and I'm excited if not worried to see what that is. So Eri drops pretty much the bombshell we knew about the bits in terms of all the failed attempts. I mean, it's such a beautiful, if not tragic scene, because you see Prospera just it can't work, it doesn't work, and then I love the fact that all of the Eri bits, right, they have like the blue glow to them. The only one with the red glow, which is our girl Suletta, and that's why we were able to, the Aerial further and further progressing, to the point of when it reaches level 8, no longer needing a pilot in order to access the data stream, right? And to see just the way they do it, like if you slow it right down, you know, that there's like 20 scenes in the span of a second, just flashing memories into her and just showing all of them say like, we don't need you anymore. It's just like so much drama could be avoided if everyone would have just been honest about it. But in terms of Mio, it's a little more understandable. Every time she talked about, you know, would you abandon your mother? If your mother said, go do this, would you do it? She just said, yes, ma'am, I do whatever she says. In terms of Eri, man, it's just if only there was a nicer way to do that. But at least it's such a painful moment because it's such a brilliant directed scene, because rather than Prospera coming, giving her a big hug, saying, Mama's here, she pushes her into space. Yes, there's a spaceship right there. She can go back in. She's not literally floating for her life. But imagine the day before, getting abandoned by your fiance and someone you're loving and caring for, and then to not only lose the Aerial, your family that you've been with forever, to also lose Prospera, basically showing that, you know what, maybe everything Mio was saying might have been a little more true than I realized, and even if she doesn't clue into that right now, eventually she will. It is insane to see what Gundam does in such a short amount of time, because there's so many plot threads. Our boy going to a confession booth, which I'm like, why is this even here? Just spilling the secrets to the worst person ever after arguing maybe he's tight-lipped and you can trust him. You have the whole Nika stuff and just the fact that Ellen just, I mean, that boy, he's psycho, he's a great manipulator too, like all these moments, but like the fact that this show is so driven by Prospera, like everything about this show would be so much worse if it wasn't for her manipulation and this twisted love for her daughter who she ultimately couldn't save. And to see her go to such lengths to let this data stream be free through Quiet Zero, it's just, man, I honestly don't know. And as soon as they started talking about, because ultimately, with Gwell working with Prospera in terms of new Gundam model, obviously Mio's like, I don't want this, I only do this with medical technology. And then she flips on the TV saying, hey girl, but look at this. Immediately you knew like, oh, she's basically gonna get her to go to Earth. It will force her to use a Gundam in a way that will protect people, that will be the justification. But ultimately, this will be a way to maybe get her leg into the door of not just simply using it for medical, but forcing her hand to maybe use it for combat reasons as well. You just can see the breadcrumbs, and even if it doesn't quite go that direction, you see what she's doing at the end of the day, and it's honestly impressive how she manipulates every player on the board to the point of simply just wanting to help this like twisted mother-daughter story. And it's like, oh my god, if only this aired on Mother's Day. A lot of people may not care about that, but for me, as someone who is honestly shook after Demon Slayer last week with what they did with a Mother's Day episode, I mean, if only we had that double whammy is all I'm saying. I mean, really, when you look at just the opening, the ending, and just like after watching an episode like this, you just feel more connected to the idea of this story in general, and I'm so interested where we go, because entering this episode and seeing her bubbly and cheerful, you knew she was hiding pain behind that smile. I mean, at one point she cries in the greenhouse when she's taking care of the tomatoes, but ultimately this is a lot different. It's different being abandoned by someone you more or less just met recently in the grand picture of things, to be abandoned by her family and just say like, you know, go away, we don't need you. I mean, this is like you either jump off a bridge or you completely change as a person. Like, I honestly don't think there's two other options. I think those are the options. And I mean, being halfway through this core, I'm honestly impressed by how much I'm loving this universe and world, and how, in terms of modern Gundams, this one has clicked with me above all else personally, but that's just my feelings anyway. I'd love to know what everyone thought, because I really thought they were getting the momentum going, showing us all the breadcrumbs to follow for all the different characters, only to blow my mind with just Eri and Prospera abandoning our girl, and literally in space. It's insane. But thoughts down below yourself. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell of course so you can get notified when I upload on the channel, and like I mentioned, full live reaction to this episode is available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get a video shoutout like FZCL, LCPL Lopez, Gabby G, and Sheriff Yosef are getting today. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.